Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting of the Fitchburg Bike Committee to order. I'm Mark Hamilton, the chair. The first thing we're going to do is take a roll call. And we will start with up on the left on the screen. So, Angie?
Yep, I'm here.
Phil?
I'm present.
Don?
Present.
Andrew Potts?
I'm here, but I'm dropping kids off, so I might not be on video for a bit.
Okay. And we have Ross Kaler here. Ross, you want to weigh in? Your connection to?
I am with the city, with the transportation department.
Okay.
So they'll ask me to stop by and talk about some of the stuff that Public Works projects affects bicycle infrastructure-wise.
Great, Ross. I have not had the opportunity to meet you, so welcome. So the first thing we're going to do here as we get going is to, we've done the roll call. We're going to approve the minutes from the February meeting. Is there any discussion on these minutes? You all got a copy of them from Phil.
This is Andy. I'd make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, there's been a motion made by Andy and seconded by, a motion made by Andrew and seconded by Angie. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving on to the agenda. The other thing I want to quickly go through, are there any, other than Ross, who's joined us, who is a city employee, are there any other public appearances for non-agenda items? Do we have anybody, Scott? Okay, we have none. So we will move along very quickly to the agenda items, and we're waiting for Joyce Fry. And I don't see...
Let me send Joyce an email. Scott, did I remember to ask you to send Joyce a Zoom link? All right, let me work on that really quickly, and maybe we need to bump that back a little bit in the agenda.
Okay, we'll defer that.
Fix that.
Then while Phil's doing that, I'm going to bounce down to the ones that I have kind of worked on, and I'll start by giving the, I'm going to go ahead and start by giving the B-cycle update, Phil. Is that okay? And let you weigh in while you're getting Joyce there.
Probably, let's see.
We can be flexible. I can go into the pedestrian plan. I can go into
I think we should still stick with the agenda order.
Okay.
I can try to
all right.
Speak really slowly here and send Scott a quick email.
Thanks, Scott.
You'll send it to me or to Joyce? Great, thanks so much. Then I can just move on to the 4B.
Okay, let's go to item 4B. 4B or 4A? 4B, sorry, 4B.
All right, pull up a screen share real quick here. So 4B, we're at the bike-related events in and around Fitchburg. So this is, I expanded a bit beyond what we normally would do. Got stuff coming up for the next few months here. Just seeing as how we're just getting into the chillier part of spring, not quite as much happening until things warm up a bit more. The notable events, there's the Madison Queer Bike Ride Group is still continuing to hold their rides second Wednesday of every month. That's the only thing that I found for April. National Bike Month is back for May 2023. We'll be looking for, I guess just below that, Wisconsin Bike Week, June 3 to June 10. We'll be looking for Madison Bike Week updates. I haven't seen anything yet, but usually within the next month or so, those will be posted, and we'll likely have a Bike Fitchburg sponsored commuter station at the bike roundabout some point during that week. National Bike Month, there will be various things the League of American Bicyclists has that can be signed up for, including National Bike to Work Week, May 15 to 21. I think National Bike to Work Day is usually the Thursday of that week, but not positive. I didn't record that one on here, so that would be May 20th, but I'm not totally certain on that. We've got summer rides for Joe, so 5 different rides this summer in memory of Joe Wilkowski, former bike committee member, Bike Fitchburg board member who passed this last December. Those are going to happen the first Wednesday of every month from the Fitchburg Senior Center from May through September, starting at 10 a.m. So this first one is going to be Wednesday, May 3rd, again at the Senior Center. If you're in the chamber, which no one is, Mark brought in some flyers for that, but you can find information about that online. I believe I've posted info on that on the city's biking webpage already. So you can check that one out if you'd be interested in joining. Another page of events, that's the unusual part. I usually keep this to one. May 10th, the Fitchburg Chamber is planning on a B-cycle ribbon cutting. So we've got our first, and we'll get into this, we've got our first few stations for the Fitchburg B-cycle around the city, and at the Fitchburg Agora, one of those locations, Angela Kinderman is setting up a ribbon cutting and media event to a little bit more publicly and formally mark the opening of this program. June 8th, the RCC, the Resource Conservation Commission, they do an annual event that's various public education things. In the past, they've talked about tree diversity and invasive species. This year they wanted to do an e-bikes event, so they asked the bike committee to cross-promote this a little bit through the cycling networks. But the McKee Farms Park Shelter, they're working with Wheel and Sprocket to host an e-bike educational event Thursday, June 8th, 6 to 7:30. So that would be a good one worth checking out. I think there are likely to be some other e-bike educational events in conjunction with the B-Cycle program coming up, since those are all electric assist bikes. But this is the one that's been scheduled so far. And then just a few more going out farther into the summer, The Festival of Speed, the Move and Groove for Boys and Girls Club, and Ride the Drive. So normally Ride the Drive, the hosted in Madison, would be in conjunction with Madison Bike Week or Wisconsin Bike Week. This year that's being held in August. So we'll have a little bit more promotion of that later, because we've got another meeting before all of these final events. So that's everything I've got. What did I miss?
Phil, I'd like to add one thing. I'd like to publicly thank committee member Andy Potts, who is working with Thad Schumacher of Fitchburg Family Pharmacy to staff and set up the senior center rides. We had a very good reaction from the senior center, and people are already signing up to do these rides. So this is one of the things that was a priority for us for this year as a committee. And I want to thank the city for supporting us on that, and I want to thank Andy. So thank you. Andy, do you want to add anything about the rides?
No, there's not really too much to add. It's a fairly short route. I think it's right around 8 miles. It's almost exclusively on trails. It's really only taking roads when we absolutely have to. It's relatively flat, so we're hoping we'll get a lot of people to join on what should be a pretty leisurely pace. And then I guess one other point to mention is we're trying to, at least I hope we're still trying to reach out to B-Cycle to make sure that they have some of their bikes available for the ride for any seniors who don't have a bike or maybe don't have a functional bike and would like to try an e-bike.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I'm going to see B-Cycle this afternoon. I'll also reaffirm that you'll reach out and see if they can help us with that. As you know, they just got their fleet out across Madison and now Fitchburg, and they're a little busy right now. But I will help you and follow up on that too. So thank you, Andy, again for your time. Okay, then, Phil, let's move on to the projects impacting our bike network.
All right, do a screen share again here. Ross, I'll kind of leave it up to you if you'd like me to kind of give a brief overview here, and you can fill in the gaps, or if you want to talk through everything.
Yeah, if you just want to give a kind of a brief overview, that'd be great.
All right, so just getting out of the winter planning season and into construction and resurfacing season and all that, so it's a little bit of a lighter list than we've seen in a couple of the past months. Cyene Road work continues. East Sherrill is complete east of South Cyene. Most of phase 1 is going to be completed this year, and again, that's the southern portion. extending down from, I always forget the name of this road up here, but kind of the lower 2/3 or so of this project is phase 1 that should be done this year. Phase 2 that's going to encompass the Sain-McCoy intersection on the northernmost portion of this project will be completed in 2024. The next couple months, the priority focus is the intersection of Lacey and Sain Road. There will be detours posted for that. And then starting in June, the west side of Sain Road near East Sherrill is going to be reconstructed. So the east side will have new lanes that traffic will be rerouted onto. So it'll just be a little bit of a narrowing of the road and routing cars through that construction as best we can. So here is just a quick overview of what the detours are going to look like for Lacey and Sain Road during the Lacey and Sain intersection reconstruction. So it'll be generally routing people over to this. It looks like this is a G instead of an F, but that's Fahey Glen Road. Will be that detour there.
Phil, can I ask a question here?
Sure.
On the Sain project, and Andy Potts may be able to ask this, do we still have Wisconsin Ironman going down Sain Road?
Well, what month does that take place? That's
Andy,
later in the
when's
year,
it usually
right?
take place? In August?
No, it's right around Labor Day.
Labor
I
Day.
think it's like the weekend after Labor Day.
Yeah, it's the weekend after Labor Day.
Okay.
But folks, committee members, am I correct? It's always gone down South Sain?
It has, last year, they actually took MM
Okay,
because of the construction on Sain at that point.
okay.
So,
Right.
I don't know if they've rerouted it. They came down, they went down MM and then they turned on, Irish Lane. Turned right on Irish Lane last year. I don't know what they're planning to do this year.
I would imagine they might do something similar. Ross, have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything about the Ironman specifically, but I think using the same reroute as last year would probably be a good idea. I know I've rerouted, I always forget what it's called, the 5K, 10K that's happening Easter weekend. That also went on Sain, and they rerouted that to avoid the construction. So
Well, Ross, you just may want to put it on your to-do list to think about, because
Is this one that Race Day Events convenes?
No, the Wisconsin Ironman.
Oh, there's a
Right.
separate association for that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I would hope that they would be up to speed with current road conditions, but
Okay.
yeah, I think that's something that we'll need to. If they were on top of it last year, and I don't think we reached out to them, I would imagine they'll be on top of it again this year.
That's fine. I just was looking at this last night. And Ross, one other comment on this one. North of Sherrill Parkway, that multi-use path is going to be open, correct?
north of Sherrill Parkway,
Right there.
yes.
Yeah. But there's a multi-use path that goes along Sain Road as it goes to the bike trail, and we use it for the Boys and Girls Club ride. It's going to stay open, right?
I believe so, yes. Yeah, it's not impacted by this, the construction area shown on
Yeah.
this map.
Okay.
And that's really the only area where there's closures bigger than
Well,
maybe just one lane of traffic.
will
really.
that be impacted? So that Boys and Girls Club ride is in July, so that's July 15th. So by that point, we'll be into the west portion of Sain Road. Is that something that, because that multi-use path extends along the west side all the way up towards the Cap City Trail, do you know if that'll be impacted?
I'd have to double check on that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that.
It'll just depend on construction scheduling and when they're.
Ross, I need to know that. I'm in charge of the routes for the Boys and Girls Club. So
Sure.
the
I'll
best-
check on that and get back to you, Scott.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Go ahead, Phil.
All right, move on. This is a bit of a new one. I think this was mentioned in, gosh, this was mentioned in February. We've got a little bit more final plans going on here. We've got a multi-use path on the east side of County Highway MM, Rimrock Road near Terravessa, that ends just a little bit north of the Terravessa project. There's a development going on up here where I'm kind of circling with my cursor that the developers are going to be adding some multi-use path along the west side of MM. that'll connect up to the Cap City Trail. So the trick is linking this on the west side of the road to the existing path on the east side. And what we're looking at is an underpass to get bikes, pedestrians underneath MM. We have submitted for and received a TAP, a Transportation Alternatives Program grant from the Wisconsin DOT for over $400,000 to cover about half of that cost. So we are looking to build that underpass, get these two trails connected, and that'll get Terra Vesta connected up to the Cap City Trail and just add a little bit more to our north-south bike network over in the eastern portion of Fitchburg, where I don't think there's much going north and south once you get past really Cyene Road. So this is going to be a nice addition to our bike network. Should be under construction in 2026. This is a little ways out, but still an exciting project that we're looking forward to.
The other piece on this, Phil, is we're going to need to try and connect it north to Southdale.
Yep.
Along that, run that same dotted line all the way up to where I think it's Ski Lane or
That
Glacier.
is, yeah, it's an ongoing conversation. The difficulty, we have paved shoulders on that section of MM that goes north of McCoy Road towards Southdale.
Right.
Speed limit's, I think, 35 miles an hour there. I might be wrong, it might be 40. All we've got is shoulders. There is some gravel beyond those shoulders, and I don't know if we can just pave that out all the way. One of the difficulties is that portion of the road goes through a wetland, and construction around wetlands is understandably very difficult, and really we do our best to minimize that. So we're starting discussions about what we can do to improve that biking connection to Southdale, and there's not, unfortunately, an easy answer, but it definitely is on the radar.
Thank you.
And then the last one here, the Madison Metro Sewerage District is moving forward with their plans to rework this force main. There should be some impact to the Military Ridge Trail when the project commences. Honestly, I'm not sure on the timeline yet. Looks like I put a little SDF placeholder text in here. Ignore that. But there are links to the plans that they've got going on right now for the trail detour and when that will be impacted. I believe at this point they're still working out what the dates are going to be for this project. So 2024, I believe, is when the project will be completed. I think they're going to start it sometime later this summer. Just haven't seen finalized dates yet. So the best guess that I got from their materials at this point is that late 23 or early 24 is when this detour of the Military Ridge Trail will be active. And so I believe, as best I can tell, is they're just kind of routing us off a ramp that goes down to a crossing road and then back up on the trail. So it should be relatively minimal impact. It's not like they're taking people miles around, so that's good. They've thought through that and trying to make sure that they minimize the impacts to that trail usage. And then other projects scheduled for this year and beyond. Again, we've got Cyene on here. We're still working on the West Lacey Road and the Seminole Lacey intersection project. That should start sometime later this year. I don't know if we have firm dates on that yet, Ross, but
it goes to Common Council on the 11th, and our contractor is hoping to get started. They were hoping to get started a month ago, so
okay.
they'll start immediately in April as soon as we let them.
Okay, great. And then starting in 2025, reconstruction of Fitch-Rona Road. That's going to be another one where we're looking to create a connection with the bike network, because Fitch-Rona Road, there are lanes from the traffic circle at Nesbitt down, I think, to the bridge, and then they kind of cut off. When you get underneath that bridge, again, we have an issue where there's wetlands on either side as you get near the Quarry Ridge, the parking lot for the bike trails there. So I know in the past I'd heard there was a possibility of building kind of some sort of raised boardwalk, like a cantilevered boardwalk for bikes that would not impact the wetlands below. I don't know how feasible that is.
That's something we've asked our design consultant, AECOM, to look into, is how best to make those connections with the wetland challenges. So they're looking into that, and they'll give us some options there.
Okay, great. Again, this is everything I've got on the Public Works projects. Ross, anything that I'm missing or any other context that's needed for any of these?
I mean, you've got it in the text, but one thing I just wanted to add is the Lacey and Seminole Highway project. There will be a reroute of the Badger State Trail. It's just a reroute so they can add new ramps for the path there. And then I'm also working on our, you've got the resurfacing projects map there. So that'll have minimal impact on actual bike paths, but there'll be roads under construction as there are every summer, except for last summer. So.
Ross, this is Mark. Can you send us the drawing for the Badger State Trail crossing at Lacey? I know that our advocacy group, Bike Fitchburg, was extremely interested in it at one time, and it was commented at their meeting last week. And so, if we could put it with the minutes, I think we've kind of seen it before, but if you would, the second question I have for you, Ross, what happened to the Purcell Road project? I thought it was going to be redone this year. Is it 2024?
That is a great question that I do not know the answer to. I've been, just some context for me, I've been with Fitchburg for about 10 weeks now. So I'm still getting up to speed on some historical projects and just trying to get everything that is in progress and kind of needs to be done for this year out the door and wrapped up, and kind of still getting my feet wet with some of the historical stuff. But I can check on Purcell Road. How exactly does that pertain to the bike?
Well, it pertains to the bike trail network because the Badger State Trail crosses it, and then people that ride bikes down to Paoli go over and get on Sales Road. Is that the right road, Angie? Sales?
Yes, it is.
It goes on there. And then I know a lot of bike rides in the area, not just the ones here in Fitchburg, use Purcell Road. So I know we talked about it here at least a year or two ago. So if you could just double check, it may be put back, but I do know that there was money budgeted. In fact, somebody from Public Works went out and fixed the trail for us to give a better apron to turn in. So thank you for that. But if you could just double check.
Sure.
Thank you.
Will do.
Yeah, the apron is much better. I'm also curious as to why Wayland Road and the upgrade to that isn't on anything here.
That's because I basically made the decision that project is not one that I will. It's basically on my list of things to get done, but it's not first on my priority list for this spring. I'm hopeful that after I get this resurfacing project bid and under construction, that then I can get that also bid, but that might be one that I need to push off until next year just for staffing workload reasons.
But the money was approved by the alders, is that correct? It was on the mayor's list, and my understanding is it was approved.
And I'm trying to remember, was that approved for the CIP budget for this year, or was that part of the ARPA TID closure?
ARPA, it was ARPA TID closure.
So the ARPA TID closure funding, the important thing to remember there is that sets out a list of spending priorities for the city, but ARPA TID does not actually provide the funding to put it in line. So with the ARPA TID budget, that budget of priority lists is actually higher than the amount that's actually available through the ARPA funding and the TID closure. So it's actually getting the project funding into an annual CIP budget that essentially approves it and commits it for spending that year. I'm not confident that it was approved for CIP spending this year, but I'd have to look into that.
Let's look into that, because we've talked about this since I've been on this committee, and I think
I've
Angie.
talked about it.
Yeah.
I've been going to city council meetings for 10 years on that
Right.
road.
So we need to get an answer of what this plan is. So thank you bringing that up, Angie. We'll follow up on it again, but I know it was passed in the ARPA TID thing.
And I should add for context, sorry, we didn't give a full introduction, Ross, but So our transportation engineer role, that is the individual with whom the bike committee has interfaced the most in the past. It was Bill Balke, then it was Andrew McFadden, and then it was Kevin Dranaski. Since Kevin left, that post has still been vacant. So Ross is not our transportation engineer, so it's a little bit different role than the folks we've been. What exactly is your title, Ross?
My title is senior project engineer, so I'm responsible for internally designed and managed city projects.
Okay.
So that's my apologies for not making that distinction clear right away, as we're still waiting on a transportation engineer to be hired.
Okay. Well, Ross,
I
thank
have
you for
experience
helping. Go ahead, Angie.
Consultant project management. That's why I'm kind of handling some of this Cyan Lacey work in the meantime.
And so then our
Well, Ross, we appreciate you being here, and I just, as the rest of everybody else knows, like to keep Wayland in people's awareness levels, because I commuted on that road for 35 years on my bike, and most people I know think that it's the most unsafe road in the area, not just Fitchburg.
We will follow up again, Angie. I've tried to keep it on the agenda, and I thought we had it.
I know.
I thought we had it
I
go
know.
through, so we'll double check.
That's why I said I was cautiously optimistic last fall.
I know you did. That was in the minutes.
and I
I think I also said I believe it when I'll see it.
I would add just one more little thing, Mark, since you mentioned the drawing for the Lacey Seminole construction. So just showing the Public Works website here for street projects, design and construction. There is a link to all of the up-to-date plans for this project, Lacey Road, Fitch Road, and Seminole. So if you check out that site, it has a list of all the presentations that have been given on this project. I don't know, Ross, if you know if there's anything more recent than it looks like August of 21 is the last set of documents.
There is definitely more recent
Okay.
stuff than that. I'll add that full plan set to this website.
Okay. Yeah, this is generally, and it's tough because we don't have like a separate content manager for these websites. So the biking page it's just up to me to keep the biking page up to date. Sometimes I have time for it, and sometimes I fall behind. But generally, you can find the most up to date information about these construction projects on this website.
All right, well,
And
thank
then
you.
also, if you scroll down on this page a little bit and go to the street and park improvements, that's got all the stuff for the resurfacing project. Just if you
Okay. Great.
if any streets that any of you guys commute on are impacted. So
Yeah, thank you, guys. I know we got a lot of moving parts here. The key is we're heading into the riding season, and particularly with the e-bikes available now, we're going to have a lot more folks on our roads. So it's important we communicate, because I'm also work with the Chamber, the Tourism Bureau, and they run a lot of rides through Fitchburg, and we want people to know as they come out what the status is. So, Ross, I know you're pitch hitting. Appreciate it. So, Phil, it's still yours. We will move on to B-cycles.
All right.
Oh, no, pending community vacancies, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Is that
It's, we're on,
that a-
we are on,
a
for
mark
those of you
item or a
following
fill
along,
item?
we're on 4D.
Looks like that's a fill item. Okay, so this spring we have 2 bike committee members whose terms are set to expire, Angie and Miranda, and both of them are going to be unable to continue with the bike committee going forward. One, thank you both for. I guess we don't have Miranda on the call today, but Angie, thanks for all the time that you've put into the bike committee. It has been really valuable to get your input and to have you pushing for things, make sure we don't let them fall off our radar. That's been really helpful, and we'll certainly miss you on the committee.
Thank you.
That said, that means that on a 5-person committee, moving forward after April, we currently have just 3 of our 5 members. So we have a quorum, we can hold meetings, but it sure would be nice to have the committee filled up again. As far as I know, we have not had any applications yet for the 2 impending vacancies. So we still have Mark and Dawn and Andy. I have reached out to our police department trying to see if our bike patrol might have any familiarity with folks who would be interested in serving on this committee. Mark, I'm sure you've reached out through your channels. I would say just...
Hey, Phil?
Yeah, Joe.
Hey everybody. Sorry for being late. I'm
No worries.
on pickup drop-off duty like usual. I have a kind of a process question. If somebody had applied in the past, I mean, could we like go through old applications and look for them? Because I had somebody apply a really long time ago and just never ended up getting kind of selected by the mayor to serve.
I don't know if
Is
we.
that possible, or would they have to reapply?
I will check on that. I don't know the process. I'm not sure if we hold on to applications for future vacancies or not. But if you send me a quick email with their name, I will look into that and get back to you.
Yeah, just putting it on the record, it's Ryan Huselman.
Huselman, okay.
He like lives a couple doors down from me. He's like very active in the bike community, and he's probably ridden with a lot of y'all and fixes bikes for people in the neighborhood. I think he'd make an amazing addition. He's on H&I right now, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind taking on another committee role.
Yeah, let me check into Ryan's application, see if it's still on file. If it is, then I'll probably just reach out to you and ask you to kind of send an email introduction, and just I think it would be good to confirm that he would still be interested. If we don't need him to apply again. If we do, then of course we'd want to go through that process. But I'll definitely check on that.
So Phil, there's one.
And
Sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
would this be the new mayor that appoints, or would it be Aaron?
It depends on when they apply, I assume. I think if they apply in the next 2 days and he can get to it, Aaron may still be the person to lead that process. But if we're extending into May, then it'll be the new mayor. I think that one is just going to depend on the timing.
Yeah. And Phil, I had another one. Don Milchowski, that I sent you his resume 2 years ago, was interested. I did not reach out to him this time.
Okay.
But he was out there, and you've got his resume. And Don, I want to thank you officially for joining again. So if you know anybody, I will also share on membership. I do know at the Bike Fitchburg meeting last Monday, they're short people. They're short at least 2 to 3, maybe 4 people on their board. So they're looking as well. So I think the key is somebody who rides. And the people you've got on this group now, including Angie, who's still on the call, all ride around our fair city. So
Yep. Yeah, we want people who ride. We want people who can be active. I've been beating this drum since I got here. Unfortunately, I need to work on expanding my own personal networks here, but most of our committee members have kind of been from the Seminole Wildwood area. I would really love to get folks from further up north along Fish Hatchery or Allied Drive, just kind of get some different representation.
just for
to speak to different folks who are more familiar with different parts of the cycling network around the city.
For the minutes, I will talk to Wheel and Sprocket, see if they know anybody,
That'd be great.
because they're over there, and I'm working a lot with Julian. Angie, you were going to make a comment.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was somebody in my neighborhood that would be interested, because I'm out on the end of Sain Road and most people don't know that neighborhood exists.
Right, yeah. Yeah, any cyclists you can recommend from your neck of the woods?
I'll ask around. There are
Great.
a whole lot more than just me that bike.
But yeah, so we've got, our next meeting will be in June, and it would be great to have a full slate of committee members by then, but just kind of as soon as we can get people on board, we'll work on making that happen.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is active members as we recruit. And that's got to be a question we ask, is that people do more than just come to these meetings, that they're out seeing around our community and offering feedbacks and working with the network, and also linking across with Bike Fitchburg. So, okay, Phil, more to come on that. If you've got any ideas, I guess get them to me, or get them to Phil and copy me so we can pay attention to them. And let's keep moving along on the agenda. B-cycle update, Phil.
B-cycle update, all right. Get back to this PDF. B-cycle, it's all right, I'm gonna get this out of my throat one more time. Either too much coffee or not enough to start the day. I'm not sure which it is. B-cycle, we've been hearing about it for a while. Exciting news that we have, if you hadn't heard, I would imagine you all have by now, but the B-cycle in Fitchburg is up and running. So as of March 15th, we had docks and stations at Terra Vesa, that's number 6 way over here in the east. I'll zoom in a little bit here. And the Limerick Senior Housing, number 5. Shortly after that, we got docks and stations, docks placed at the Agora station, number 4. And then last week, we got concrete poured and got docks placed at McKee Farms Park, number 3 here. So we've got a good chunk of our phase 1 B-cycle implementation that is live. We're working in the next week or so on the Wyndham Hotel at Hatchery Hill, number 1 here, and then number 2, Oak Bank. That leaves us with a few extra docks that we were hoping to place at another site that kind of fell through. So I've been working with Joran Frydenland on the Parks Department and with B-Cycle to identify another spot. And right now we're looking at Hatchery Hills Park up here, number 7. So this would get us a little bit farther up North Fish Hatchery, which would be nice since we eventually want to get docks at the hub, but that's still a little ways away. So moving up Fish Hatch a little bit would be great. This gets us some proximity to Fitchburg Family Pharmacy, some of the retail or some of the commerce over there, and some dining options. Gets us close to another park near some multifamily residential, and so this would be a really nice place to get some docks. And we're just looking on finalizing a site plan for that. So the hope is that by the end of April, really maybe even by mid-April, that we'll have 7 stations out there for phase 1, and then we get to start planning for phase 2. Which we have that $300,000, a little bit over $300,000 from last year's DOT TAP grant. And we'll get to start expanding into some of these maroon and green stations that are listed on the map. Maroon is stuff that's a little bit more, we're pretty well set on having stations here. So that's the North Fish Hatchery Hub. It's the Dolly Bike Hub over here at Spoke and Sprocket area. The Civic Campus, we're finalizing plans to get docks at hopefully both the Senior Center and the library here, Swan Creek Park, and then we'll look at a couple other park and city-owned locations around Fitchburg, as well as try to recruit some other business sponsors who would like to have docks at their site. So we're on the move with B-Cycle. We've got an update on the city's biking website, so you can go check that out. There are links to the Madison B-Cycle page, which has a map of stations that are currently up and running. I can actually, let's just share the full screen instead of going app by app. If you go to the Madison B-Cycle page, you can get information on rates and riding. You can subscribe to the newsletter, but maybe most relevant here is checking out the station map, and this shows you where all the stations are around the whole Madison and surrounding system. So we've got mostly, of course, it's in Madison. There are a couple docks in Monona, one in McFarland, right across the Lake Wabisa, that multi-use bridge. And then these 4 stations in Fitchburg now. And the really nice thing about this is they'll show you this number that's in the circle tells you how many bikes are currently active at that site. So if you're looking at doing some trip planning, you can check that out and see if bikes are available where you're planning to pick one up. You click on the icon, the marker, that'll also tell you how many docks are open at that station for parking. So right now at McKee Farms Park, we got 6 bikes docked there, and there are 2 open spaces, so you know whether there's room for you to go to a station and drop off your bike. So we're finally moving. We've got some progress going on B-Cycle. We're hoping that as we move up North Fish Hatchery and hopefully also kind of up into Seminole and Allied, that the Madison network is also going to stretch down through Nakoma and down Park Street and Fish Hatch to join these 2 together and make it, really a one larger connected network for kind of this whole of the region that we're connected to. Would be really nice. But that is I didn't even need to go to the website. I had a slide on here for it. But this is our exciting B-Cycle news. We just keep on moving forward.
Yeah, I want to officially thank the city folks who helped with this, including Scott Endel's folks in the Parks Department who put out things, our colleagues from Phil's office and more, and even the mayor were all involved in this, and the chamber, and it's going to be exciting. I'm already hearing a lot of good feedback about it, and there'll be some organizational things come too, including the free rides. I think, did you mention the free rides for April?
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, there's if you go to the website, you can download the QR code, and you can get free rides for the month of April from any of those sites. I don't know if it's just in Fitchburg, but I do know it's free rides in April. So
I think if you check out Fitchburg Chamber's website, may have a code there. I think
they do.
Code Bike the Berg.
There is. It's Bike the Berg is the code you have to enter.
Yep.
Yes, that's the code you type in, is Bike the Berg, so.
Yeah, and to Mark's point, it's been a pretty big planning team. So we've had several people with B-Cycle, some staffing changes, and so a rotating cast through there that's been involved in this. Mark's been really heavily involved from the bike committee and Bike Fitchburg side. And then on staff, yeah, we've had Scott and Jordan from Parks Department. Zach Jones has been really heavily involved from the planning department, so he's handling all the site planning and making sure that we understand when we're when we're setting out our plans that we're doing it in a way that complies with code and isn't going to receive too many challenges. One other thing worth noting is that we are still working on free or reduced passes. B-Cycle is going to provide 5 different passes to the library that they can check out just like you would a book. So we're hoping to have that both at the library and then also as the library has an outreach van that they drive around Fitchburg, so they'll be able to have a pass or two available on that outreach van as well. So we're really excited about that as kind of the first effort, certainly not the end of it, but the first effort to make passes a little bit more accessible, especially to folks who may find the pass fee to be cost prohibitive. We really want to make sure that that doesn't create a barrier to this program, especially as we're looking to expand the network into different parts of the city. We want to make sure that access is both physically available, but also financially. So those passes are the start of that, and we're going to keep working on other ways to make that work. I'm checking in with Dane County. I haven't gotten a response yet, but checking to see if we can use our community development block grant dollars to create, to help subsidize some reduced fare passes. I haven't heard back on that yet, but I'm hopeful that that'll be an option as well.
So 2 more pieces I'd add. Thank you, Phil. One is, for those of you new to the committee, specifically Don, we're working in phase 2 to put these in what I would call the needy areas of the city, as Phil mentioned. We didn't put them in phase 1 because phase 1 we had sponsors who paid for these things, and they wanted them by their sites. For example, ProMega is one good example. But we're going to be putting it up by the hub. We're talking to the Boys and Girls Club today about putting one over there in that park area, and where Alder Maldonado represents. And the key with that, everybody, you guys should know about these bikes. It's 18 and up. And that is something that we've got to educate our own community on. So you won't see kids riding these to school, so to speak, or even these kids riding to the library is going to be something challenging down the road. But that is the liability. That's the way Madison's run, and that's the way most of them are. So this has been an effort going on for 3 years. So I do want to thank everybody, and I would encourage you, if you're free, to ride your bicycle over to the May 10th ribbon cutting at the chamber. Anything else on B-Cycle, Phil?
That's all I've got for now.
Okay. I'm going to quickly...
So I have a question.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Don.
So regarding the April free passes, are we doing any promotions for that to introduce people to B-Cycle, to encourage them to take free rides in April?
The city doesn't have anything promotional yet. We've been spreading the word through our outreach network. So Fact TV has talked about B-Cycle. I'm going to be speaking with the Fitchburg Star later this week. In terms of promoting the free passes, we probably have not done enough of that yet, and I'll look into ways that we can get the word out on that a little bit better.
It is on the chamber website, Don, and I know Bike Fitchburg's promoting it, because we discussed it at the Bike Fitchburg meeting a week ago. So you're right, we can do a better job of getting it out. The key message is the under 18 or over 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, the chamber's been doing a good job, but that's a pretty limited audience. It's like, it's in the chamber newsletter a ton, but I'm not sure how much that really gets it out to
the chamber's limited, and Bike Fitchburg. I think the question for me, and Dawn, I don't know if you have any suggestions here, but expanding that messaging to folks outside the usual channels. You know, we've got our really avid cyclists around Fitchburg. They're going to learn about this stuff. So the question is,
Right.
How do we make sure that other people do?
One suggestion is, if there's a blurb that has been written up that people can share, then we could post on our social media. We could send it to other newsletters and things of that nature. But I don't want to create something that isn't accurate. So if there's a small blurb or post that we could share, that you could send out to committee members that we could further distribute, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll work on that. So far it's really just been advertising the opening of B-Cycle, but that's a point well taken that we really should talk about that free month pass to get people introduced to it. So I'll be working on a couple social media posts to share with Lisa Sanford for our city pages in the next couple weeks, and I'll make sure to include this in there. And yeah, once something's written up, I'll send it out to the committee so that y'all can share it too.
You know, Phil, you might want to borrow what Angela wrote up in the chamber and put it out there.
Yeah,
I was going to
She had a blurb in it.
suggest that she's
Yeah,
got
don't
like
reinvent the wheel.
she's
sorry, I
already
didn't
got
hear
like
you guys.
a
Go ahead.
paragraph on it.
Oh, great. And if it has the map, I haven't looked at it yet, but if it has just the locations, then everything people need is right there and they can go try it out.
Yep.
Yeah, the key is we're hearing from the seniors, Don. I'll speak to seniors next with cycling, but we're hearing they don't know how to use them and how to use the app and how to get the bike out. And more importantly, they don't know how to ride an e-bike. So there's some education we're going to have to do in our fair city. So more to come, but that's a very good point. And I will, Phil, we will follow. We promise you we'll follow up on this to get the message out to the committee members as well as others. But yeah, I'm into the chamber sync as well as Bike Fitchburg. So it is out there, but Andy Potts' point's appropriate. We need to ensure we're getting it to everybody. So more to come. This is a good.
Just a suggestion on the seniors piece. It probably would make sense then to reach out to Jill McCone and see if they can do some sort of an event around education on how to use the e-bikes.
Yep.
Maybe they could bring a group of seniors over to one of the stations and make an event out of it.
We have been talking with David Hill over at the Senior Center, and there are discussions ongoing about creating an educational event over there. So that should be happening this summer. We don't have anything firm yet, but
Phil's right, Joe. You stole the next agenda item I'm going to move to, and that is on senior cycling topics. We met with Jill. Steve Arnold and I met with Jill and David 2 weeks ago, and that was one of the topics talked about, as well as setting up these bike rides for seniors that Thad Schumacher and Andy Potts are going to lead on in memory of Joe Imolkowski once the first Wednesday of every month at 10 o'clock. They're going to have a little bit of an overview with education before each bike ride goes out. They're going to be slow roll rides between 6 and 8 or 8 and 10, and the only requirement there is everybody's got to sign up. They're free, and everybody's got to wear a helmet. So you are correct, because Jill and Dave both want a program, and if we can't get Trek to do it, we will work with Julian at Wheel and Sprocket. I've already talked with him about it too. So we will get it out there as much as we can moving forward. I'm going to stay on senior cycling for one more second. We've talked about the rides now. We had a small group that met March 1st to talk about senior cycling in Fitchburg. And it was Tony Hartman, Andy Potts, Steve Arnold, myself, Julian from Wheel and Sprocket, Kay Lum, I think, and maybe one more. And that's when we decided to first follow up with the Senior Center. The second part that's going to take some more time, and I want to know if anybody's got an interest, is cycling without age is the topic, and it's being put on. It started, I'm not going to give the whole overview of it, but if you go to the Bike Fed's website, there's a lady named Michelle Bacchus who's in charge of cycling without age for our state. And it's a program that's mainly done through nursing homes, where they will purchase one of these things and then train riders. They're called trishaws, and they're $7,000 to $10,000. Plus, you've got to maintain them and train pilots, and they're called pilots. I'd like to know if any of you, I've started to do some research on this. It's going to take an entire program. There will have to be some kind of money raised. I don't know if the Senior Center is the right spot for this. Typically, they're nursing homes, and we don't have any skilled facilities in Fitchburg. We might want to ultimately approach some of our independent living places, but until we have our ideas around a plan, I think we're kind of premature. But Wisconsin is one of the biggest places in the country for these, and Michelle Bacchus has put her hand out to help us however we want help. But I would like to know if any of you have an interest in starting to work on this as it goes forward. And we're just getting started. That was one of our priorities for 2023, as you recall, is senior cycling in the city. So there's a lot of things we can do here. If you've got an interest, please let me know. And check out Cycling Without Age. Andy, you've been very involved with this and shared a lot of things. Would you add anything else?
Yeah, I think you captured most of it. Again, I think the point of it is it's a way to get people out on bikes who are at a point in their life where they're just not physically capable of doing it themselves. So it's both kind of a means to get people out into the community and get back on a bike again. But then it's also kind of this intergenerational ideal of getting younger people out to meet with seniors, and they're very slow, low roll type rides. You're really only going a few miles per hour. But it's a very interesting program. I want to say it started in Denmark.
Yes.
And it's been expanding throughout the country, but in particular in Wisconsin. I could try to share my screen. I think I was able to grab a photo of one if someone really wants to see what they look like, if you're not aware.
And this also was an agenda topic last year at our June 2nd meeting.
Yeah, I think people are generally aware of what they are.
Yeah. But that would be something that there's plenty of information online about Cycling Without Age if anybody wants to look further into it, or last year's June meeting. Andy gave a good overview there as well.
So if you have an interest in working on this, let me know. In the meantime, I'm gonna talk to Michelle again and circle back. The key with this, as I said, is getting the money to pay for it. Then you've got to store it. We've got to train the riders. We got to make sure we have liability all covered. So it's a full program. It isn't something you just, unlike the B cycles, Trek has already been doing this all across the country. This is something that's kind of new for Wisconsin and is not in Fitchburg yet. I think Andy shared with us, Verona has one, don't they, Andy?
Well, I don't think Verona has one, but I think there is one in Verona. I think
Okay.
it's and actually that was going to be the other point I would make is I think ultimately, yes, we would be looking at purchasing one or more of these and all the logistics of where to store it and service it. But they are out in the community, and I believe the Bike Fed has one or two of them that you can borrow on a short-term basis. So I think as we're moving forward, keep in mind that we can try to operate the program on just a very limited basis to see what type of interest is out there before we start dropping, $8,000 or $10,000 per bike on these things.
Yes, and Michelle said that. I also will tell you, Michelle's trying to host a training system for pilots in the Madison area. I think it's this week, and I hadn't heard any more. So I put a call to her yesterday, did not hear back. So more to come on this, but other topics about senior cycling, let me know. And again, if you have an interest in working on this as we move to 2023, please advise, both Phil and I. So I will move us along here, paying attention to our agenda time. The next item on the agenda is update to the bike ped plan. I would like to thank Alder Joe for putting in a ARPA TID request to have a consultant begin to update our bike ped plan from 2017. It was done in 2016, and Don, there it is, and Don and Andy were both on this committee that did this. As I read this, as we got done with the gold application, I reread this, and it's woefully out of date in a lot of areas. The second part is we as a committee have not talked about pedestrian access and activity around the city, and I think that's a part of it down the road. We have funds that are going to be available in 2024. And Phil's put up for you the activity of things that were in there. I'd like to get a small group later this summer of us that starts just looking at this, not taking any action because we don't have consultant money, but just take a look and see what we've done. We've done a lot of things on here, folks. So as a committee, we can certainly say we've been paying attention to it, because I looked at it when I first took over as chair of this group, but I still think there's a lot more to do here, and there are some things in here that may not even be applicable anymore. So what I'm asking for is a small group to start reviewing this, not before the summer. And what I really just want to do is we'll need city help. So yes, we'll have to get Phil's help, but if he doesn't have the time, we find someone else who can assist us. Just look at the plan and see what needs to stay. It's 187 pages with attachments. That's a lot. It's on the website. If you go to the biking website, you can see it. I would encourage you to look at it. But I think if there's anybody that wants to help us, let us know. And again, thanks to Joe for moving this forward. Bike Fitchburg is also extremely interested in updating this, because the treasurer of Bike Fitchburg, the former mayor, Steve Arnold, was mayor when it was, the first one was finished. So I'm going to stop there. Phil, do you have any updates, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that pretty well covers it. I know that we have, I guess I'll say that we've talked in the past about creating a small working group to periodically, or I guess somewhat regularly, review the bike pedestrian plan. It's one of the few specific things outlined as a responsibility of the bike committee. So we had talked about a small working group that would keep up with this and kind of review section by section throughout the year or the course of several years, how the city's doing it at meeting its goals. We haven't really done that. I would say over the last year, the year and a half, the bike-friendly community gold process has sort of taken the fore. But now that that application's submitted, this is something that certainly we could spend a little bit more time on instead. I suggested to Mark that maybe for future meetings, we dedicate 15 or 20 minutes even each meeting just to talking about one section of the plan, and I don't know if that's really the most efficient way to go about reviewing it, but that would be one option, is just spend a little bit of meeting time every other month talking about the plan and in different sections and how we're doing it at meeting the goals laid out.
I think that's a great idea, and I think we could, excuse me, as we put the agenda together for our June meeting, why don't we allocate some time to discuss it? In the interim, I would ask each of you to go back through and take a look at this thing again. Andy and Don, you might have seen way too much of it back then, but we don't feel, in talking with Mike Zimmerman, there's not a feeling the whole thing needs to be scrapped and redone. The term Mike Z is using from the economic development is refresh and update versus a whole new plan. Because again, you guys did great work. I know you had a lot of community meetings, so I don't know, Andy or Don, do you want to add anything to this?
Well, I do at least want to mention that Joe was part of that committee as well. So his efforts are not forgotten.
Sorry, Joe.
No problem.
You only get one kudos, and you got one for getting the money there. So Joe is a part of it too. I stand corrected. So we've got a good mix of people around this committee who do know about this plan. That's great to hear.
And I will just say, kind of calling back to a previous comment from the meeting, is that the money was approved as part of the ARPA TID budget plan. So if it's going to be in the 2024 plans for the committee, for the city, it still will have to be put into the, I don't know, I would assume this would be an operating budget expense. Joe, I'm not sure exactly of that, but.
Yeah, so I would recommend that we work to get it in the CIP.
In the CIP, okay.
And then if it's in the CIP for 2024, then also kind of reinforce that it be in the budget. And both of those are written by the mayor, and then alders can submit amendments. So like, let's say the new mayor doesn't put it in, then an alder can request that amendment, and if it has a majority vote, then it'll get in. But the other thing to keep in mind is when we're crafting a budget is that, we're up against levy limits. So let's say we have, 6 things that all get amended to be approved in the budget, and then we go over our levy limit, the council will go back and revise just to make sure we get under that number. So no guarantees on anything. It's just kind of spelling out those pieces of the process for you. It'll be really important that if you do want that refresh, that we just have some advocacy. We have people kind of talking to our new mayor, talking to council members, showing up at CIP public hearings, showing up at budget public hearings, and all that. If it is something that ends up being like a fight, that folks advocate for it.
Okay, and Joe, we will ask you as our alder and our bike committee member to help us keep it on the front of the agenda, please. I'm seeing Chad later this week, and I'll.
Absolutely. The other thing, just to keep in mind from a process perspective, is with that ARPA TID funding, the council, essentially pushed staff to investigate into the possibility of things. So we put $25,000 in there. I don't know whether or not that's the true cost of a consultant, but that'll be sort of something that staff will need to look into to see if that's the correct amount. And if it needs to be adjusted, once we get to a CIP, once we get to a budget, probably need to revise and put whatever the true number would be.
And that's why it's important, I think, we start looking at it this summer. Again, Phil is right. We focused a lot on safety around our city and the goal, what I'm calling the goal journey the last year and a half. Let's turn our attention to this and do some of the homework that we can do as we move, before we get to that step. So you are correct.
And I would say the other advantage of looking at this sooner would be just for staff capacity. So we've got B-Cycle up and running, but that's still going to be quite a bit of management on my end. We're also just starting the process of bringing in a consultant for a sustainability plan. We expect that to take 12 to 16 months. A sustainability plan, we have a consultant, but that is still going to take up a hefty chunk of my time interfacing with them, collecting data, reviewing their work, things like that. So staff capacity next year will be limited for helping with a bike ped plan refresh. And so if we have a team that's able to look at this quickly and get a sense of what the lift will be, I think that'll make it easier to determine whether we are able to fit it into next year's budget and staffing plan or not, rather than trying to put it in the CIP without really having a sense of, as Joe mentioned, what the cost should be, but then also what we need from committee members or staff or a consultant in terms of time.
Okay.
Phil,
Go ahead, Joe.
do we have a sense for what are the appropriate consultants to handle this? Like who's all in the atmosphere? And who was the consultant on the original plan?
The original plan,
or was it just?
We worked with a company out of the Twin Cities called Community Design Group. I think Twin Cities. I'm not really sure who else is in this sphere. I would have to do a little research on that. I would check out other alternate transit and biking plans from other cities. I'd reach out to colleagues, particularly Renee Calloway, the bike pedestrian coordinator with the city of Madison. As far as I know, she is the only biking coordinator in Dane County, so she's usually my primary resource for that. But no, I'm not sure off the top of my head who else we would engage.
I would then say to Mark, maybe that's something Steve might want to think about, who's in his networks and what kind of consulting firms he knows, and calling around to see what they generally charge for these types of things. And then as we as members of the committee start to narrow down what things we really need to refresh, saying just get a sense of what the general cost would be to do different levels of service.
Mm-hmm. Agreed, Joe, and I will be happy to do that. The figure of 25 to 50 did come from Steve, and then in talking to Mike Zimmerman from the city, he said that would probably be the high end for a consultant. But again, you're right, Joe, but we need to look at the plan. For example, there's things in there that talk about building the bridge across McKee, which is long in. There's talk about B-cycles in there. So Don and you and Andy were very proactive as you looked at this, or visionary. So we need to look at that first. The other thing is that we need to address, Joe, is there's a whole section in there on pedestrians. And that's not in our scope here, and the city needs to tell us how they wish to handle that too. So I will reach out to Steve and see if he has folks. And as I said, I'm talking to Chad about this in a week or so. So we will do all that you're asking, but I think I got it. I'll follow up for you.
Mark?
Yes.
So, since having previously worked in the consulting world for an AE firm, I have some ideas too. I mean, ultimately, it's going to, since it's a city process, we'll probably have to put out an RFP and put it to bid. But I could probably help you ballpark a figure as well.
Okay.
And we can triangulate from recent plans as well. We've got $50,000 is what we budgeted for the sustainability plan, and that's a ground up plan. I think 50,000. If we're looking at this as a refresh, 50,000 is much higher than what we're going to need.
Right.
The city, I believe, spent either 20 or 25,000 for a consultant to help update the comprehensive plan a few years ago. I think that makes it more feasible from a cost standpoint. That I think even 25,000 is probably on the high end of what we're going to be looking for. But I guess some of that is how much is the consultant doing and how much is staff or a working group doing.
And I'm hoping that way too.
Yeah.
Having done a lot of consultants, and we knew we had to do an RFP, Andy, but I think before we do an RFP, we need to know what we're doing. I mean, are we doing a refresh? Are we doing a plan from scratch, as Phil mentioned, with the sustainability? And what are we doing with pedestrians? And so there's more to come on that, which is why I want it on the table now. And I think we want to begin to tear into it as we get into summer. Let's get the B-cycles running, get some of these other rides going, get the senior thing going. And between that and the cycling without age, and continuing to maintain safety on our trails and roads and streets for bicyclists and educate, which I think Bike Fitchburg's doing a decent job of doing, we got plenty on our plate. So more to come on this.
The good news on reviewing this, as Mark mentioned, is there is a whole chapter just on implementation, chapter 5. It's only 8 pages. So if you really want to just get a kind of high level look at where it seems like we're doing, how we're doing compared to the 2017 recommendations, it's just 8 pages of narrative and recommendation tables to skim through.
Okay. Anything else on the update to the bike ped plan? Seeing none, we will move into the last portion of our meeting, which is reports from our departments. So I've got number A, and on the bike-friendly community application, what I can tell you is that we expect to hear sometime in early May. So as soon as we know, you'll know. I think they let us know, and then we're kind of gagged, so to speak, until there's official announcement that comes from them. But I got to tell you, with all the work we put in on this and all the things that we did, I can't imagine personally that we're not going to get there. But I'm speaking for myself. I do know that Steve Arnold and I spent over 30 hours or probably 40 hours putting all this together. Many of you helped give us pieces of it. So thank you, and more to come. We'll let you know. Joe, you're up next on the agenda, the council update. We have an important day today, right?
Yes. So we're going to be meeting with the manager at the Boys and Girls Club, just to kind of look out for, what's in the realm of possibility for a B-cycle. We're meeting at 2. If anybody wants to join, you are more than welcome. The other thing I was going to mention is that I got outreach from Wisconsin Bike Fed about some bike repair dates. I'm still working out the specific details of the dates, but I know for sure we're looking at Wednesday, May 31st from 4 to 7 at Luna's. And then we're also looking at May 24th, also a Wednesday at the same time. And then I'm still working on getting a date. If it would be, so I'm looking at like a 2-phase series of events. It'll start at the New Fountains apartment, and then it'll end at King James Way Park. Potentially looking at April 29th, but I just need to hear back from them and see if they're available. That also may include a bike giveaway with free bikes for kids. So I'll make sure to share with the committee, and I'll also share it in council meetings when the dates are finalized.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for all your work. And yes, if you do want to brave the rain this afternoon, we'll be over at the Boys and Girls Club at 2 o'clock, and we'll go from there. So Phil, you're up next, staff report.
All right. I'll just add in another big thing today is there is an election. If you haven't gone to vote, you should go do that. Staff updates. We've got 4 trail etiquette signs that Mark and a couple others have been working on acquiring, getting printed. So we have communicated with with Dane County and the DNR. We'd like to put those by the Cap City Trail and the Badger State Trail, but because those are county and state land, we've got to get approval from them. It sounds like they're going to be okay with it. They just need us to give them very precise coordinates where they're going to be placed, just make sure that they're not going to be in the way. So those will get placed out sometime this spring. Just some signs reminding trail users of basic etiquette. We have acquired 15 new bike parking racks for city parks. I will be meeting with Scott Endel soon to decide exactly where those are going to be placed. We're pretty well decided, but just need to get the specific numbers. We'll get additional bike parking at some of our parks. Working with Scott and not Fact TV. Love you guys, Fact TV, but this was somebody else. Working with Scott and IT, we've created some forms on the city's website so that members of the public can report general bike infrastructure issues and request bike parking at city parks if they feel there's a need there. So that's kind of nice, giving us a little bit more of an avenue for public feedback on bike infrastructure. Been working with a big lift from Steve Arnold on a bike-friendly business application, so we plan to submit that for the June deadline, and we'll get, of course, Fitchburg is already a bike-friendly community, but there's also a bike-friendly business application that it's pretty uncommon, but not unheard of for cities to apply for a bike-friendly business. And we've got this whole civic campus with 4 different buildings that gets a lot of different members of the public, patrons, customers, kind of some different terms we could use there, but we're going to be probably applying for that in June and see if we can get that designation as well. The one other thing, I'm going to need to get some information together to send an email out to committee members after today. So we were supposed to have Joyce from the economic development team come and talk about an event, and I unfortunately forgot to get a link sent to her to remind her of the event late last week. So we missed out on that in the agenda. I'm going to go chat with Joyce and get that information from her and make sure that it gets emailed out to all of you. The short version, and Mark, I'm guessing you may have a little bit more info on this than I do. This is the 40th anniversary of the city of Fitchburg, and there are several events that are being planned. One of them that Joyce was hoping to get the bike committee's assistance with is a bike and brew event that I believe was going to involve 2 or 3 of the breweries around Fitchburg and some biking in between. So we've got Hop House over on Seminole, we've got Delta up in Southdale, and we have Great Dane right at Cahill Main at Hatchery Hill. So I couldn't tell you exactly what assistance Joyce was looking for, but I will look to get that info from her.
I can add on to that. And I kind of gave it the name Brew the Berg as we get forward with this. And she's looking for us to lead it and support it. And I think the other thing is, as the bike chair, I know the people that own the Hop House. I also know the owner of the Delta Beer Lab, because we've done things with them both through the chamber. And I've already mentioned this to them, and they seemed excited. So if we have it would be a slow roll, because I know that Great Dane did this a couple years ago. They rode the trails around Madison, going to all their breweries, and they'd give you a small 6 to 8 ounce glass of beer along with an appetizer, so that you're putting something in your stomach and riding, and it's a lot of fun. But Joyce wanted to know if we would be interested in leading this. I said, I think so. So we'll be certain. I think, as Phil said, we're going to have to get the info out because I don't know. Joe, do you know when the 40th anniversary is celebration, or maybe Scott or Phil do for the city?
I do not.
Okay. Joe, you got any update on that?
I know it was talked about in council, but I don't have the dates on me.
Okay.
I could dig it up and find out.
If you, well, that's no big deal. Well, I think as Phil's going to get to Joyce, and we'll get the info out to you. But I volunteered us as a group to kind of help, whether we lead rides, we participate, or whatever. So more to come on that. Anything else, Phil?
Nothing else from me.
Okay. Is there anything else from committee members? Well, I want to thank all of you for your help and support the last couple of months. Again, Joe, with the budget thing. Angie, I want to wish you well. We will still, I promise you, we'll still work on Wayland. Won't let that go by the wayside. And we've got a lot going on. I hope to see everybody May 10th. I think it's 4:30, but I'm not sure. Check the Chamber's website about the ribbon cutting, because you all had a hand in this. And if you can, participate in the senior rides. We're going to do we're going to be doing 5 of these throughout the year. So, and if you wish to serve on these 2 other subcommittees, I'd like to put together the Cycling Without Age as well as the Bike Ped Plan, let me know. So, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, I think from Joe or Andy, I heard.
Who's Joe?
Okay, thanks, Joe. All right, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we will talk to all of you on Tuesday, June 6th. So have a great day, and there's a little window to ride. Get out and ride.